It's official. Okay, folks, welcome to our webinar today. We are going to get started here in 2 seconds. Just a few quick updates. Obviously, we have races coming up this weekend, so very excited about the Raleigh 70.3 and the Hawaii 70.3 teams. They are capping off some amazing fundraising and some great training, and you guys are our first round of racers to tell us what it's like out there. So we're really excited to see what you've got, and more importantly, we're excited to hear what you have to share about what you're doing out there on the race courses. So a lot of folks are going down. Please keep an eye out. I have 3 of my New York City athletes that are going down there as well. Treat them nicely, and we're going to have some fun out there. Today's webinar, we were going to talk a little bit about the race weekend and some of the do's and don'ts, but we thought that one of the things that we haven't done really well yet is delve into nutrition. And a lot of you guys, we've talked from the start about practicing nutrition and making sure that we're doing the right things and making sure that we are experimenting a lot with what we're eating and what we're taking in. So hopefully we're close to being there. And I think the best way to kind of cap it and send you guys into race weekend, because we do have folks listening that are racing this weekend from Raleigh and Hawaii, but we also have folks that are going to be racing Mont Tremblant. We have folks that are going to be racing Staffordshire in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And we also have folks, obviously, they're going to be racing Arizona at the end of the season. And we still have some spots open for that. So I'm very excited to talk to Brooke today. Brooke Scholl. Am I pronouncing that right, Brooke?
That's right.
All right. Brooke Scholl is our expert, and I'm really excited because when I first spoke to Brooke, she literally talked to me about the stuff that I was excited most about with triathlon and training nutrition, which is the metabolic efficiency training. And I'm going to give you the very 30-second lowdown on why I think this is exciting. I've been a coach for 15 years, and about a year and a half ago, somebody came to me and basically told me that everything we've been doing is wrong, and then proved to me why it was all wrong. And I have seen results in the last 15 months from athletes that have been working with nutritionists and dietitians like Brooke, and the results have been fantastic. So it's not a perfect fit for everyone, but I think it's great information. I think it's something we should spend some time listening to. So I'm going to turn it over to Brooke because I tend to talk a lot, and I want to let her have the floor, and she's going to talk from here. So go ahead, Brooke.
Okay, well, good luck to everyone racing this weekend. Hope everyone has a fantastic race. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am a registered dietitian. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in nutrition, which is important when you're looking for someone to help you determine what really the best strategies are for fueling on race day. It's important that the individual has the background to back up the information that they're providing you. So look for those credentials, the RD, that stands for registered dietitian. I'm a triathlete myself. I've done 3 Ironman races and plan on more in the future. However, I have a little one coming in August, so I'm taking a little bit of a break right now. But my husband and I own Destination Kona Triathlon store. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona, and a part of that store includes my nutrition coaching business, which is called Fuel to the Finish. So that was really my objective coming out of my program, my master's program. I really thought about what demographic I wanted to work with, and my passion lies within endurance sport and triathlon specifically. So we were able to create this store, and I'm able to do coaching right out of the store for my athletes. So it's very fun. I'm a board-certified specialist in sports dietetics, so that's a mouthful, but CSSD is the certification that you're looking for, again, when you're looking for a sports dietitian to kind of help lead you into developing fueling strategies for your races. And then, as Earl mentioned, this metabolic efficiency training has really changed my life. It's changed, many of my clients' lives. It's just incorporating simple strategies into everyday fueling and then also training and racing fueling. But I just recently, I think it was December, became level 2 certified, which there are only 10 of us in the world. So pretty cool credential there. today we're going to talk about, fueling for triathlon. We're going to talk a little bit about some basics, how you should be fueling generally, throughout the year, not just, surrounding training and racing, but all the time. And then also some different considerations to take into account when you are training and racing, which you all are. So, and it's specifically at the half Ironman distance. I love this distance. It's my favorite. And once you kind of master some of the fueling strategies, it's not that hard from a nutrition perspective. We'll talk a little bit about new research, and that'll be it. So as far as fueling tips for every day, and then as well as training and racing, here are the basics. So this is metabolic efficiency in a nutshell. Metabolic efficiency is training your body to really tap into your nearly unlimited fat stores that you have in your body. When we think about our fuel sources that we can utilize from stores in our body, you can either utilize carbohydrate or you can utilize fat. And most times we're doing a combination of the two, just one's being utilized at a higher amount than the other. Well, so many athletes consume such a high carbohydrate diet that their bodies really go to utilizing carbohydrate first. The problem with that is that we are limited with our carb stores. We only have about 2 to 3 hours worth of carb stores. So when you think about that compared to fat stores, we might have Ironman races worth of fat stores. Fat is definitely the preferred fuel source to use, to train your body to use. And that's what metabolic efficiency is about. Really, in a nutshell, it includes combining a fiber, a protein, and a fat at every meal and snack. Now, the word fiber can be interchanged with the word carbohydrate. However, when I say the word carbohydrate, many people's minds go to bad. This is, a bad nutrient. Carbohydrate is not a bad nutrient, especially for athletes. It just becomes bad when we over-consume it, or when we consume a lot of carbohydrate without adding a protein and a fat in, because of its effect on blood sugar. So what we don't want to do is go through the day spiking blood sugar all day long. And it doesn't help us from a body composition, perspective, trying to maintain weight. It doesn't help us from an energy perspective, and it certainly doesn't help with performance. And the most important way that it doesn't help us is with our, general health. So by keeping blood sugar stable, by making sure that when you do have a carbohydrate-containing food, you're putting a protein and a fat with it, it starts making a big difference. From a performance perspective, absolutely it does. So it's also a less is more approach. I find that a lot of triathletes have a more is more approach, or a more is better approach. This is definitely not the case with metabolic efficiency. You want to fuel in a way that your body is well fueled, but not in a way where you're taking in a lot of excess calories, carbohydrates, sugar, along those lines. So a couple of examples of ways to make metabolically efficient meals. Example number one, doing, simple grilled chicken breast with a quinoa pasta, pesto, and asparagus. Now, I always recommend throwing a vegetable in whenever possible, just because fruit and vegetables are so great. They're packed with vitamins and minerals, and great for us from an athletic standpoint, because we're constantly stressing our bodies, and they have a lot of benefit from that perspective. So, the chicken breast is the protein, the quinoa pasta is the carbohydrate, the pesto is the fat, and the asparagus, again, is the vegetable component there. Another example would be, a grilled salmon fillet, brown rice, and sauteed spinach. Now, in both of these examples, I do have a grain. So in the first one, it's the quinoa pasta. The second is the brown rice, grain. You don't need to have a grain at every single meal. So maybe in that second example, interchange that brown rice with a sweet potato. That's perfectly fine too. So that's something I focus a lot on with my clients, is you don't have to have grains at every meal. And in fact, most athletes, most people in general, feel better without grains at every meal. Everyday nutrition matters. So what this means is if a potential client contacts me 2 weeks out from an Ironman and says, I just need a race plan, a fuel plan for race day. First off, I'm not going to go down that road with them because it's not enough time to develop a quality fuel plan for race day. But your everyday nutrition as you build towards a race matters so much. So the earlier you can start, the better off you're going to be. Most of your carbohydrate intake should be focused on fruits and vegetables. And again, this goes back to immunity. These are antioxidant foods. They're going to be much more helpful to us, generally speaking, than the grains are going to be, which are also carb-containing foods. So that's where that rationale comes into play. And then hydrate with water. A lot of athletes go straight to the sports drinks or the recovery drinks, or, there's a time and a place for recovery type items. But for the most part, water works out great, and then supplementing with, electrolytes as needed during training. So, and balance is key as always, and especially with metabolic efficiency training. Fiber, protein, and fat at every meal and snack. A simple snack idea, fruit is a great choice when it comes to a carb-containing food, but instead of having that apple or that banana alone as a snack, put some almond butter with it and make sure that you're keeping your blood sugar stable. Fuel stores. So we've talked a little bit about fuel stores already. Food equates to energy. When we take in food, we're giving our body energy, and we also have stores of energy in our body in the form of carbohydrates and fat, as we've discussed. And we've actually already covered these amounts. Storage carbohydrate in the body, 2 to 3 hours. Storage fat, 8 to 10 Ironman races. So quite a big difference there. With the little image on the right-hand side, the hitting the wall, I think there are a lot of misconceptions about when hitting the wall actually occurs, and many athletes feel like it actually happens before it does. So again, with metabolic efficiency training, it's about giving yourself the right amount of fuel without going overboard. Protein depletion, so muscle breakdown is always initiated during training. It's just the way that the body works. So, it's important from a recovery standpoint to replenish all the nutrients, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute here. And then the goal, again, of metabolic efficiency, it's simple. Utilize fat for fuel as much as possible. All right, as far as hydration goes, of course, hydration is hugely important, especially for the longer course racing, like half Ironman. As we know, water is lost in a variety of ways, and the main goal of hydration is to prevent excessive weight losses, body weight losses, stemming from hydration losses. And that magic number is over 2%. Once you hit 3% of total body weight losses from hydration, your performance really suffers. So I try to avoid that with clients just by making sure they're fueled, they're hydrated properly. There's a sweat rate calculation you can do. You can weigh yourself before and after a long workout, and also include into the calculation the amount of water consumed during the workout, and this can help determine exactly how much fluid you need per hour of a workout. There's several online calculators that you can use for that. Electrolytes are very important, and a lot of people, when you say electrolyte, just think of sodium, but there are other electrolytes, of course. You have potassium chloride, magnesium, and calcium. Sodium is just the one that we lose in the largest amount from the body. But you can see all of the different benefits and all of the functions that electrolytes have on the right-hand side, and especially as it relates to training and life, they're essential. And so making sure those electrolytes stay within the narrow windows that they're supposed to. Electrolyte supplementation is so individual that we really won't get into this certain amounts during this webinar. It would be something that I would be happy to work with you individually, or So definitely seek out the help of a sports dietitian to help you determine those numbers. The risk of not hydrating right, well, dehydration is a huge one, but then also hyponatremia or hypernatremia, either high or low sodium levels are very dangerous. So what are some of the nutrition challenges? Well, there's a lot of things that can pop up during a race that really prevent you from fueling consistently and following a fuel plan the way that you should. And these are just some of the most common ones. You know, some individuals might be too tired to eat. You know, they're having a really exhausting race and they're too tired. They're not hungry. They're too amped up from all the excitement and forget to eat. You know, the fuel falls off of their bike, whatever it might be. So when I work with clients, I really try to prevent a lot of these things from happening so that the person is able to stick with their plan that we've developed. When you don't fuel right or hydrate right, there are a lot of negative impacts. We talked briefly a couple of slides ago about dehydration. This can occur really by not taking in enough fluids, but also with extreme climate. Traveling, you know, to a climate that is hotter or more humid than the one that you're used to can definitely impact your hydration levels. And then hyponatremia, again, is low sodium levels. And this can occur either when someone overhydrates and kind of dilutes their sodium concentration in the body. Well, that's really the main one there. But you can see some of the symptoms of hyponatremia down below that. So cramping, headache, confusion, loss of energy, seizures. Obviously, we want to prevent this from happening. Stores nutrient depletion. So if you go through all of your obviously you're not going to burn through all of your fat stores in your body during a race, but at some point of a race, you go from being able to burn, you know, primarily fat as a fuel source to really switching over to burning carbohydrates due to intensity level of the activity. So, you know, it is possible to run out of carbohydrate stores or glycogen stores, certainly. So we want to avoid that from happening. GI problems, that's a huge one. Many of my clients come to me and they've had issues with GI, you know, problems just due to the type of fuel that they're taking in or the timing. So I definitely work with people to get a handle on that. And then hyperthermia, elevated body temperature is another serious thing that can happen. So, you know, carb loading is something that has been around for a long time. And even, you know, many of the races still today, I talk to a lot of people who say, no, I don't carb load. That was, you know, that's so 5-10 years ago. But many of the races, when you look at the pre-race, you know, the athlete dinners the days before, there's still a big pasta dinner. And so I like playing this video because it's kind of a humorous take on carb loading.
Jamie and Alfredo. That's the carb load. Just remember, folks.
And that is a clip from The Office where they were doing a 5K run. And so, of course, he carbo loads and then proceeds to vomit at the end of the race just because he has too much food, too many solids, too much carbohydrate. But, you know, while there is a comical side to it, the truth is the body does have glycogen storage limits, and glycogen, just as a reminder, is storage carbohydrate. So when athletes carb load in the days leading up to a race, it causes the body to store glycogen, but with glycogen, also water is stored as well. So sometimes these athletes go into a race feeling heavy just because water has been stored along with the carbohydrate. And also, you know, doing some massive carb loading creates blood sugar spikes. So as you can imagine, when it comes to metabolic efficiency, carb loading is not something that I recommend. Instead, I recommend the athlete, you know, establish a balanced regimen throughout training and really carry that through race day. You don't want to avoid carbs, in the night, the night before the race, the breakfast, the morning of the race, but you don't need to have this gigantic plate of pasta like is pictured here. A little bit about pre-race fuel. So the objective of pre-race fuel, and this would be, an example of breakfast the morning of, is you want to begin the race well fueled. You don't want to be hungry once the race starts, and you want to keep your blood sugar stabilized. So if you wake up and you have 3 donuts the morning of the race, which is all carbohydrate, there's no protein and fat, you give your blood sugar a big spike, and then you're starving 10 minutes into the swim, not a very productive way to start the race. Instead, I recommend that, my clients put together, again, the fiber, the protein, and the fat. And a really good example is plain Greek yogurt. Dairy is something that works for some people before a race or before a workout, and it doesn't work for others. You kind of have to determine that during training to see if it's something that works for you. But that's providing primarily fat and protein. Then you have some berries in there, so, a natural sugar source, carbohydrate source, and then walnuts. So fat, again, is being provided from the walnuts with a little bit of protein. So you can see that the balance there of carbohydrate, of protein, and fat is really pretty even, which is what we're going for. As far as hydrating pre-race, you really want to have enough fluid to feel hydrated. I always use urine color as a guide for my clients, for myself during racing, and during training as well. If it's a pale yellow color, your urine, then you're in pretty good shape. If it's darker than that, you need to hydrate more. And if it's clear, that's not necessarily a great thing. You really want it to be a pale yellow color. So pre-race. I specifically am not going to go into during nutrition, during the race nutrition, because many of you are racing this weekend and you already have plans established, so I don't want to create any confusion. But again, if this is something that in the future you could use some help with, definitely let me know. Post-nutrition, the goal here is to replenish your lost nutrient stores. So especially with the example of a half Ironman, you've burned through a lot of your nutrient stores. Even though you're replenishing some of those lost calories as you go with dietary food, you still are utilizing your fat stores and your carbohydrate stores as well, breaking down protein throughout the race. So it's important to get those stores all topped back off. And so after the race, refueling is a really good option. And so it doesn't have to be, I get this question a lot with clients, that are training and they might finish a long workout and maybe it's hot when they finish and they feel kind of nauseous and they need a little bit of time to decompress and shower or whatever else needs to happen. You don't have to rush straight in after a long ride and eat a giant meal. That's not what needs to happen. It can be something as simple as a snack, followed up by a meal, an hour later, hour and a half later, something like that. But the goal, again, is to really refuel your body so that your body is ready to go for the next workout, or in a race scenario, like we were talking about, you've burned through so many calories that you want to replenish. Keep in mind the balance of carbs, fat, and protein, again, when you replenish. And also keep in mind that while you do want to get the nutrients back in, 8 Chipotle burritos are not necessary. So kind of keep in mind that eating normal portion sizes, maybe a little bit more than what you would normally eat, for the meal post-race is going to be efficient enough for your body. For the meal example, depending on what time it is, depending on your accessibility to food, something like the example of an omelet with veggies and then a side of roast potatoes. Well, you have fat and protein coming from the omelet. The veggies are great immune support, again, and sometimes carbohydrates, depending on what veggies you're putting in there. And then the roasted potatoes are also going to be a carbohydrate source. So using replenishing all of your nutrients. The snack example may be something as simple as a banana and almond butter, you know. Could be something as simple as trail mix, something like that. But again, trying to not just replace carbohydrate, getting the protein and fat in there as well. And then as far as fluid, you know, with a race example, if you get a weight on yourself after the race and you're down 6 pounds, well, we need to come back and kind of think about how much fluid is actually being consumed during the race. Probably more needs to be consumed. And then also making up for it after. If you are down pounds of body weight, it's making sure to get fluids back in there. You know you didn't burn off pounds of fat while you were out there racing, so you know that it's fluid. And we want to get, you know, make sure that you get well hydrated again after the race. So just a couple, you know, metabolic efficiency is a little bit of a newer concept where there hasn't been a ton of research conducted at this point. Now more studies are starting to emerge, which is really cool. I'm excited about that. But here are a couple of the, you know, articles in recent years that really do promote the less is more philosophy. This first one, it was done in 2013, you know, had endurance athletes, and again, they were given Gatorade, Accelerate, or a placebo, and the supplements actually did not enhance performance. I think a lot of our traditional sport products were developed. Gatorade, for example, was developed in the 60s, I believe, and so people have been using them ever since, and just now are starting to question, okay, is this something that I really need in my training? You know, is it something that's really promoting better performance and better health? Maybe, maybe not. So again, I like to keep it pretty simple. I like clean products. There's a lot of sport products out there that kind of a new wave of sport products that have really great ingredients. Instead of having the typical maltodextrin, you know, that a GU might have, you know, maybe it's an example like Humagel, which has a fruit puree as the main sugar source. So again, using products that the body really recognizes as more natural, athletes are having a lot of success with. So, and then in the second study, again, it was related to, you know, sports drinks, using sports drinks and then also using water, and the sports drinks were leading to a higher incidence of GI distress, which I also find occurs a lot with my clients who have GI issues. We get down to the root of what's going on, and they're either over-consuming calories, they're taking in products like the more traditional sport products like the GUs and Power Bar that are just not being recognized by their bodies, and as a result, their performance is suffering. So something to keep in mind. And then here is my info in case you have any questions and need to reach out to me. My email is brooke@dktristar.com, and phone number below, that's my cell. And then this is one of my favorite quotes that I think really applies to the 70.3 distance, and you know, it actually could apply to all of the distances, but you know, for those of you that it's your first half Ironman, I hope you really enjoy the day and that, you know, all of your hard work pays off. So that's it for me.
All right. Brooke, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. That was really great.
Oh, yeah.
Really great. I'm not going to do any questions right now, but what I'd like to do, since we're going to put this recording out there for folks, definitely look for your information to ask for questions. But also, I want to make sure that people can reach out and ask it for a little bit of follow-up. So, but I don't want to keep people much longer. We try to keep these around 30 minutes for the webinars. But a ton of great information, and I think it's one of those things, like every time I listen to this type of presentation, I feel like I've learned something. So, so thank you so much, and we'll look forward to working with you some more in the future.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Is the other, I think the other date we picked, is that next Wednesday?
That's next
Oh,
Wednesday. So
wait, okay, that's, for a minute I was like, wait, is it a couple weeks out? So yeah, let me, just